So, I don't know if you remember from last week, I asked you a couple of things if you could consider, please, before you enter the room, to leave the nominal self, the stuff that distracts you from life, all the troubles and the worries of tomorrow and yesterday and the exes and the work and the money and all the stuff that you don't need in your mind or in your heart, if you could leave it out the door. So if you hadn't done that and it hasn't peeled off your existence yet, just push it out the door. It'll be waiting for you downstairs as soon as you leave, yeah, in its full impact and beauty. But if you step into that thing with a different mindset, you can change it, hopefully. More fans?
You're very dark.
Yes, it's Spanish.
But I'm afraid to point a light at you and then you'll be very hot.
I am muy caliente now, so if we can put the fans up high, that would be nice. And with John Stillwell's class the same, maybe we can bring that down a little. If someone's got a stick, there's a stick at the back.
Someone tall with a stick.
That's good though, the lights too.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah, and the other one too, a little higher. Push it up.
Should I put these up?
Maybe. Until we're all freezing.
So, do you want to be the stick man, or do you want to be the stick chick? Yeah. I see the light. Yeah. Yeah. It's a metaphor. If you hadn't worked it out, it's a metaphor. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming. I'm excited about this class. I'm so excited about this class because it holds some very special things in it. Some seeds for some special things in it. Like Lama John Stillwell's class last Tuesday. Many good things this week. So may they come to you. Let's start by, if you haven't left that shadow self outside, make sure they're pushed out there. And the beings that are in this room, be open for getting what you want. And don't be surprised if you're surprised at yourself. So traditionally we start by asking for teachings by offering a perfect world. In your heart, imagine the most perfect world, both physically and the way it's experienced by every being in it, and offer it to whatever that thing is that teaches you.
Sangye.
Sashi.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, take two. It's just to test your motivation.
Sashi.
Goki Jishin Metotram Viram Inshi Yundayam Padi Sangye Shindu Mitve Wari Drokun Namda Shinla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamniyatayami Shudam Zogi Chognam La Janchu Vardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Panjir Sangye Druparsho Chudang Zoki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki junyen gipet sonam ki drola panchir sangye druparsho Shudan Soki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dapni Kapsuchi Daki Junyen Gipet Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Druparsho. And while we're at it, let's just practice a little bit of meditation. So make sure you're in a comfortable seated position. Back straight. And just make a commitment not to move for the next few minutes. Find your posture, scan your body, and begin to go inward to that thing that perceives. Identify the part of you that is perceiving, and direct that focus onto the breath at the very tip of your nose as it enters and exits your nostril. And all you have to do is just feel the sensation of the air entering and exiting your nostril, that's all. If you get distracted, just return to that sensation. Feel the focus getting stronger by getting more and more detail about the sensation, maybe the change in temperature, maybe a finer point where the air enters or exits. Add a little joy for the moments that you can focus. Feels uplifting. And consider your motivation for being in the room. There's something you're seeking. Just be as honest as you can be to yourself about why you think meditation can help you. What do you think it will help you in, and how? And imagine that you can have that in an instant. What does that feel like? Imagine how many other people on the planet are wishing for the same, or slightly different, but still thinking that they want that, and wish it upon them. And call in for some help to try and deliver the wish of all those beings on the planet who just want more or want to be happy. So call upon a teacher, the most enlightened form you can imagine, the highest evolution of a being you can imagine. Maybe they're a mental being, maybe it's somebody you know, but instantly upon wishing everybody's happiness, you ask for their help and guidance, and they come instantly. in front of you, they're sitting facing you. Feel what it's like to be just with them, you and them. Everything else fades away. If you can catch a glimpse of their eyes, watch them smiling at you. And inside those eyes is perfection and love. Feel a little overwhelmed for being in their presence. Imagine what it would be like to be perceiving the world like they're perceiving the world. Perfect happiness, perfect wisdom, perfect compassion. And so it's born out of your heart to offer them something for being with you. And so make them the most beautiful offering. It can be the most simple thing or the most complex thing. The most magnificent sensation you've ever had, charged up and condensed in a single instant. It could be the scent of a flower. Observe them as they accept your offering. Feel deeply connected with them and them to you. And now think back in your week and look for something that's on your conscience, something that didn't sit well with you in your heart, something that maybe you said to somebody that hurt them. Maybe some anger arose, or you brought some unnecessary unhappiness to this world. And just go looking for that in your mind over the past week. What's the thing that first pops up? Find it. Observe it as if you're outside that moment. Remember what it felt like. And just have a clean wish that that hadn't occurred. Just a wish that you hadn't done that. Because it brought suffering and it could grow into more suffering. And that's it, there's no guilt, it's just an intelligent regret. Try and find something in you that gives you the energy to try not to do that in the future. And just be done with it. Imagine it totally disappearing. Because of your regret and your intent not to have it in the future. So you feel lighter, your conscience is cleaner, you feel freer, and your mind goes to a moment in the week where you did the most beautiful thing, a moment of joy where you acted correctly in your world, you brought some wisdom or some happiness to the planet, the people around you, or to yourself. Maybe you helped somebody who was hurting. Maybe that somebody was you. And just inhabit that space of what it feels like to do something good, something that feels beautiful. And step into that moment with joy. Just be happy. Feel it in your heart if you can. Allow your space in your heart to grow. And as you do that, watch the teacher in front of you grow and glow with you. And it feels right. And just imagine all the other people around you now feeling that same thing. Each mind holding a beautiful moment and growing it and feeling happy. There's abundance of goodness in the room. Hold that in your heart and ask that being in front of you to please teach you always. Even when you can't tell they're teaching you, that they teach you. And you watch their smile grow a little in acknowledgement. And so you ask them to please stay close to you, never leave you. And just watch them now as they rise and turn to face the same direction you're facing. They become a little translucent and shrink down to the size of a thumb, and they rest just at the crown of your head. Try and feel what it's like to have complete wisdom and understanding of how this world works, and a heart and a mind filled with compassion and love. Inches from the crown of your head. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Welcome to class 2. So I didn't give you all the answers to your homeworks. So many nice people. So having said homeworks and quizzes, who's got the homeworks and quizzes?
The homeworks are here, the quizzes are out. Should I send homeworks too?
Not for this class yet. Oh, the marked homeworks from last week? No.
We didn't have homework.
We didn't have homeworks from last
It
week.
was the first class we did.
Damn it. Who did their homeworks?
Yeah.
Who's handing them in? Good.
No, I'm saying, should I send homework?
Not yet. So let's take a quiz. Yeah. Before we take a quiz, let me just quickly remind you, for those of you who weren't here, that last week we covered a couple of things. That this course would have 5 sections. The first one was how to prepare for meditation and a couple of things you do there. The next is about the place. So there's some classes about the environment in which you meditate. There'll be a class or so about the posture, how you sit in meditation and why. Then the mental processes, the kind of things that go on in your mind as you meditate, and the things that don't go on in your mind as you meditate. And lastly, we'll actually get to talk about what we focus on. Yeah, but we're tricking you because we're trying all the way along. We're sort of doing it like we just did a little meditation, right? Anyway, so and then we talked about some important words in Tibetan and some in Sanskrit which define different types of meditation. In the West, it's early days for us to have Joanne. That's outrageous. I mean, we're trying to teach meditation here. There's noise in the corner. I'm not doing this anymore. So we talked about, how many words there were, and that's just a few, to describe different types and states of meditation. And I feel that in the West, we're so new to this that we just call it meditation. But it's got all these nuances. It's like Eskimos' words for snow or white or something. I don't know, something like that. You get it. and how many words for love we have. So, enjoy your quiz. I'll talk to you in about 2 minutes.
Are there any more quizzes?
Yeah, any more quizzes?
I wasn't here, so someone may have mine.
Good, okay.
Can you pass them back?
So we'll give you about 2 minutes for the things. Look, there's no big pressure here on the quizzes. Again, it's a trick to get your mind focused on these ideas. But if you do them, and please do them, you will take full advantage of your time here. What it means is you're going to turn up, and we're going to have this dialogue, and it will take you another 3 minutes to do a quiz, or another 2 minutes or 5 minutes to do a homework. In that time, the results are exponential about the knowledge you're learning. Don't do it half-assed. Come here, immerse yourself for that 2 hours a week, which is not very much. Add 15 minutes to that. Do your meditation, your quiz, your homework. The benefits are exponential, or whatever that word is in English. So if you're thinking, I just listen, push yourself, and the results would be incredible. Says Hector, who didn't push himself, wasted 10 years and then had to do it all again. Okay? I'm just going to put this here. I'm just going to place that over here. Bless you, in the Tibetan kind of way. And if you're not taking the quiz, instead of thinking of things you might like to purchase, spend some time recollecting whatever you wish to get out of this class, whatever you want to grow into. That being is waiting for you, and the more time you habituate your mind to that, the more you gompa them. Oops. The more shina you have about gompaing them. What does that mean? I'm giving people results for the answers, for the quizzes. Yeah. Okay. If you're not done, get on with it. Cool. Who did that? Thank you, Jane. Homeworks and quizzes. I've got a sheet somewhere of the volunteers. Yeah, that's you. Yeah, that's good. Homeworks and quizzes go that way. Right. Like I was saying, I am so excited about teaching this class in particular because I remember the first time I learnt it, and it set me off on an unstoppable path, resulting in sitting in front of you not knowing what I'm talking about, but utterly changing my life. This class and the class that John Stillwell taught this week did something to the continuum of my life that was unexpected, and I wish that on you. So, Let me tell you about Tuesday's class with John Stillwell. Okay, I had met when I first moved to New York. I met a man. I shared a house with a man who was a weirdo because he had an altar and a picture of some guru bloody thing. Yeah, and I'm like, what an idiot. Doesn't he have a personality? He needs someone guru, can't he figure it out? This is how I came to New York. A year later, I met Geshe Michael Roach with that attitude. And he was a man who, without a doubt, for me, appeared as having complete and utter wisdom about how the world operated. He knew some things, and he demonstrated his behavior around this world in a way that I'd never seen before, and with a confidence that I'd never seen before. And it was forced upon my mind to see that person, that being, as flawless. And I hated it, because I came with the full inertia of a proud little South American idiot. I know better. Who needs a guru? So I came with that inertia, and then you meet a most magnificent creature on the planet. So that was hard, coming with those opposing things where you meet for real, not imaginary, not some person that knows perfection and knows love. You meet for real somebody like that. But all your habituation is saying they don't really exist. In one way you wish it, and in the other way you're not prepared. So I hung around him reluctantly to, I was looking for a flaw or a mistake in what he was teaching. And the first class I went to was a public class, and I just argued with him publicly, and that's another story. You all heard that, I'm sure. And that's what kept me coming back to prove him wrong, because he'd say one or two things that I'd have in my mind, and I'd take home for a week, and I'd go, damn it, I didn't mean it that way. So I'd come back to try and explain myself, and that's how he sucked me in. And then at some point after that, I took the plunge, and I took the formal study course, which is this course, yeah. And I took the class that John Stillwell had taught this Tuesday. And, Geshe Michael looked at me. I'd been around him for a little while by then, reluctantly, and proud. And he asked me to read out loud in the class. He'd sit me at the front, like a punishment almost. And then he knew my big weakness, which was, he didn't know it, but that's what I thought, which was reading out loud. There's nothing worse for me than reading out loud. Because my holy mother, as a kid, I was such a bad reader. She used to sit me on top of this stool and make me read out loud, and then correct me halfway through every sentence. And I hated it. My feet couldn't come down, and it was in Spanish. And then we moved to country, so it was awesome, because I didn't have to learn to read Spanish no more. So then in class, the English teacher asked me to stand up and read in English, and I couldn't do it. No, I speak English, So I got away not doing that. Geshe Michael did that to me for 2 courses. Yeah. So there's a poem in the Bodhisattva Charavatara, the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, and it's the voice of Master Shantideva. And I had to do that in the 90s out loud, and I was shitting myself. And for those of you, feces, singing myself. For those of you who are at the should teachings, yeah. I'm like, what? So he called me over. Hector can do this. I'm like, talk about.
He said you had the best voice.
He did. But you see how I was perceiving a completely different thing to what he's perceiving. There's something in that. So the 6 preliminaries. Now, the first thing we're covering, just so you know, is what to do before we meditate. Yeah, there's some things you do before you meditate that if you do them right, as you spend time meditating, these things come to fruition and do something to your practice. If you don't do them, if you miss 1 or 2 of them, the machine doesn't work so well later. And you don't know why, and you might have to go and retrain yourself on some habits. Yeah? So, how to prepare for meditation, we covered a little bit. I gave you a quick overview last week, is that right? What was the first one? Create. Clean your room, do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Why? Great. So there's something, and I don't know exactly why it works. I tested it, and I tried to do it without cleaning my room, and it's a different feeling. And if you do it for a long time, and I've been doing this now for 12 years or something, 15 years. 15 years meditating. And I'd say 12 of them without a single break, every day. There's something that happens when you don't do all the preliminaries, and I've gone through periods where I did it really bad, and then the feeling is different. You get a sense for this. So what we're getting is from a commentary called Liberation in the Palm of Your Hands, which is a commentary on the Lamrim Chemo. The commentary is written by our teacher's teacher. Yeah? So a gentleman called Pabonka Rinpoche lived in the 1920s. Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand is being taught for the next 10 years in Arizona by Holy Geshe Michael Roach. And in that text, and in Jade Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chemo, which is the entire path from Shmak to enlightened being, are these preliminaries. Yeah? So mainly in the Lamrim Chemo. And they deal with concentration and emptiness in the Lamrim Chemo. And the preliminaries are covered. In some of the commentaries around those, it is said that the cleaning up your room, if done with correct view, is part of the cause of the paradise you experience on enlightenment. So it makes sense that your activity around the space that you're creating, if you were ACI 1 and 2, where you learned about where things come from, how we project our reality, that then your attitude and your action towards the physical space around you, where you step into a special place where you allow yourself to elevate who you are, then that could be the cause for your Buddha paradise, for the physicality or your perception of the space around you. So it also gets your mind thinking on a virtue. Yeah? And once your mind is sitting on a virtue or a positive state of mind, let's call it that, a positive state of mind, yeah, if it's sitting on a positive state of mind, you can't at that time have a negative state of mind. So the more you hold and elevate that state of mind, the less likely it can be filled. And when it is, you can't have that state of mind. And so our minds are forever doing that. So this practice of cleaning up the space around you is both a reflection, a literal reflection of your space, of your mind, of who you are. Sometimes mine's really messy. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. That's early.
What if the space where you meditate, I think I know is the same space where you work because you don't have a lot of space. Like,
Yeah.
so
cordon it off a little bit. Like even if it's just a cushion, yeah, try not to destroy that space or that cushion. Or do some kind of trigger or ritual to invoke and visualize that space you could see through the walls or something, like it is special. Yeah, it's about your seat. When you take that seat, the place becomes that. But even if it is, then make your workplace a holy place. Is that okay?
No.
Cool. So the first one is clean up your room, tidy up, etc. In the Abhidharma Kosha, there is some correlation between your relationship to a holy place, like stupa or a temple or something like that, and your heaven or the special virtues around place. Sorry, yeah?
Do you ever step before you clean your room? Is there any that steps before that one?
Yes. If you have a continuous and non-stop practice. But for the purpose of the 6 preliminaries, you get up, the intention and your view should be your first step. Your motivation for doing these things should be your first step. You should be thinking, this should be forcing you to think, why am I doing this? What am I creating? Yeah? So if you have other practices, when you step off your bed, your mind should already be engaged with that kind of activity. Is that okay? The next one is make offerings. And make offerings means you're inviting enlightened beings to come to your room. Now, do enlightened beings come to your room?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
Yeah, they don't come knocking at my house. They're like, no, that's not true. They, yeah, it depends, right? It depends. Are there really people coming? Think about it, because then you have to either trick yourself into entering a state of mind that believes these things are possible, that you can evolve into a being that is predominantly mental, and not in the British sense of the word. Mental means like dumb. And that there is an evolution to your consciousness, that there is an evolution to your physicality, and that subtle states of awareness, that the idea of Buddha, to wake up, exists, and that you are on that path. And if you can get your mind to there, to whatever capacity you're at, if you're new to this, it's at some level. If you've been at this for a while, it's probably worse. Kidding. You have to get your heart and your mind thinking, please come. Whatever that is, please come. Yeah. And so you make a beautiful space for them to come. And a trick to use, if you like, is you imagine that through this wish, the Dalai Lama's at your door, or whatever the highest being is. Now, really, not pretend, really at your door, right? And then what would your space look like if you knew they were coming, if you were inviting them? Because someone will show up. So if you think that way, in the ultimate sense, you're planting some incredible seeds in your mind that will have results. You'll have the added benefit of having a clean room. Yes. And so anyway, we're going to cover the 6 steps. One of them has 7 steps in it, which is the 5th step. And then by the end of the class, I'm going to explain how you condense that to an actual practice, right? Can I just have hands up? Who's got practice that has this already in them? Yeah, good. If you've got them and you've got some teachings, they should either contain all of them or you should recognize them in some way. Yeah. And keep doing your practice. Yeah. We're covering the basics here. So, making offerings. Imagine that they're coming and you want to give them something. So we have these things over there called water bowls. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time about the water bowl practice because it does something to your mind as you're spending time allowing your mind to be in that virtual space. Let me demonstrate. And actually, I did. Well, let me cover it first. So the idea of water bowls, okay, here are some pointers. It was traditional in ancient India that if you had royalty or some high guests coming, you'd clean up your space, you'd make it look beautiful, and you would give them some offerings, you know, so they'd come from dirty, muddy roads, cow dung everywhere, sandals covered in whatever. It's hot, and so you give them a drink, something as soon as they came, gave them some offering to drink, some cool, refreshing water. You'd probably offer to wash their feet. You'd cover them in roses and flowers and petals and so on and so on. Yeah? Give them some food, etc. So these are representative of those ancient practices. And as they went on to Tibet, and they philosophized about making offerings to holy beings, those offerings became symbolic, and in their stead they offered water with a visualization and an intent for these original offerings. So what I'm going to show you, and I'm going to cover next, is how to make a water offering by thinking and imagining that you're offering that holy being, that special being, that enlightened being, whatever that experience of that being is for you. You're making them the offerings of the highest form. So I think I printed some things for you where you could write them down. Somewhere here. Feel free to grab and pass along. So the first thing I want to tell you is your bowls from the night before should be in this kind of fashion. I don't know if you could see. Yeah? Can you see that? Yeah, sort of like that. I can do more than two because I've got two hands only. I feel like I'm doing a magic trick. And then,
do you want a picture?
no, it's just I wouldn't mind another little, so what's yours? There's layers and layers of symbolism here. But imagine that you load up or you charge up your mind, the potential of your mind, with seed after seed, day after day, of this intent. And it grows and it grows and it becomes real over time. So it is one of the most beautiful practices and has so many beautiful results that impact over many, many things. So the first thing you do is you think that the bowls, the physicality of these, are actually your body. This is your body. Yeah. And so you spend the first part of, before you start your day, cleaning your body, preparing it for the most beautiful thing. So maybe there's some crappy stuff that you did yesterday, or maybe there's, yeah, but and they might not need to look clean. You need to act that you're cleaning them. And as you're doing this activity with your hands, you're purifying something inside of you. Yeah? So you're purifying something. And then you realize that your body has many parts. It's not just one, there's a lot. And you imagine that it's clean and ready and capable of stepping into something magnificent, and in comes, poured into it, is the highest wisdom, the Dharma, a knowledge about how this world exists and how you can go beyond this world and how you can reach the higher states of awareness and how you can wake up. And so all of a sudden your body is filled with Dharma, with knowledge, with wisdom, with love and compassion. And you grab the top part, and like teacher to student, since the time of the Buddha and before, it is poured from teacher to student. And so then in your hand you have the first offering for that special being that you've invited. It's hard to think any kind of negative thought if your mind is on this thing already, because you see, like, I'm holding something on my left hand and something on my right. Anyway, so you make an offering and you place it down, and you imagine the coolest, most beautiful liquid that holy teacher can receive, and you offer it to them. This is to your teacher, this is to your Lama, this is to your heart guru, this is to the highest being that has ever taught you anything. It could be your mother. We'll talk about the object to which you do this. So that's argam in Sanskrit. It's water for drinking. And it's an offering to the senses, so this is the sense of taste. Yep, cool. And then you think that the teachings are passed on, and you imagine yourself washing their feet, cleaning their feet from their long journey to you. And this is a sign of humility. This is, you say that there is something I don't know. Please teach me, and let me care for you, for your kindness. So that's padyam, came into English as pet pedestrian. Yeah. And that would be an offering to their sense of touch. Yeah, if you got the little sheet I handed out, that won't be too hard. Oh dear. Okay. And then you imagine the Dharma continues to pour deeper and deeper into your body, and you make an offering of flowers to them. Beautiful, fragrant flowers. And you imagine them. The way I do it in the mornings at my place is, I have a heart teacher, and actually there's several of them. And as I'm doing this, I'm imagining both an ultimate idea of them in front of me coming to this room, and I imagine their emanation or their nominal bodies walking somewhere on the planet. And I see them get totally freaked out that flowers just appeared in front of them. Maybe they're on the toilet, like I do. I think silly things, maybe they're on the toilet or something, and a flower fell or something, out of nowhere. Or they're walking down a path, and all of a sudden 3 magnificent flowers, it's desert, and 3 magnificent flowers appeared. And they know that it's coming. And so you trick your mind to really make it as real as you can, because the depth to which you do that is the depth to which you experience the results of something like that. That's pushped. And the way I think about it, I'm not Sanskrit scholar. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a linguist. Obviously, you can't read. It's funny, with padyam I get it because it's feet. Pushped because it pushes out of the ground those flowers things. This is my big. Anyway, so you imagine that, and you give that to your holy teacher, and then it goes deeper into you. The Dharma enters you deeper, and you offer them incense. Yep, which is dupe. And again, I imagine them somewhere on the planet, and the fragrance just comes their way, and it fills them with bliss. And I'm happy that I've surprised them. And that's an offering to the sense of. Yeah. And then I do the same, and I offer them light. And I imagine a flame, or a butter lamp, or if it's at night, or if it's early morning, I see just some brightness appear near them, or a spark appear near them. For the meditation being that's coming to my room, I imagine that it begins to glow with light around us, and that's aloke, and that's an offering to the sense of sight. And then it goes deeper, and what's next? Perfume. And this, the way it was explained to me at first is like a perfumed water, and then it was like an ointment. It was like an oily ointment. Yeah, and it was like I was massaging them with this beautiful scent, and that's Gandhi. And then with the last of the water in the last water bowl, I offer them sort of special magic food, no dead animals, and that's Nvidia, and that's an offering to the sense of taste. And sometimes you offer them sound or music, or you can imagine, and if you've got a practice or if you've got a conch shell, you can do that, and you put it down there. Sometimes you have a bell, you can put a bell there. And so your state of mind is the more you do this, by the way, the deeper it gets and the more subtle experiences you have with it. And you've just created the courses for complete and utter bliss of all your senses by really tricking yourself that that holy being is receiving this for real. Whether they're coming right here, right now, or whether they're walking somewhere on the planet and you're forever surprising them.
Lama Hector, do you want to just mention that there's a little bit of water in each bowl?
Yeah, there is.
Pour the whole thing.
Yeah. There's just a little bit of water in each bowl now, right? So the first layer of that offering is to my Lama or your Lama. And if you're from South America, alpacas are fine. That was one of my really good jokes. They said to try and have the water bowls around about a rice width apart, not touching, not too far apart. Now, is anything horrible going to happen to you if they touch? No. It's just to hold your attention. Yeah? But it's symbolic. It's a metaphor for teacher to student relationship. You're getting these teachings from a being. You're getting this understanding from someone. And I mean, I got it from Holy Krishna, a real, living, magnificent creature with deep knowledge and patience beyond my understanding and love beyond my understanding, who got it from another incredible, magnificent being, Holy Ken Rinpoche, who struggled to get out of Tibet. Imagine if he hadn't. I mean, when these things were being taught here, it was the first time this was being translated en masse, that the Geshe degree was being... Holy Ken Rinpoche came with that knowledge inside of him. Yeah, and so you know Geshe Michael did this practice to them. And then Trijang Rinpoche and the Pabonka Rinpoche. All the way back to Jaitzon Karpa in the 1500s. all the way back to the Indian Pandits who came to Tibet and did the same struggle that we see His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all the old Tibetans do to share that wisdom into the West. The same thing happened from India to Tibet, and it took hold. And we're very similar in that sense, all the way back to the Buddha himself. So the reason the bowls are close to each other is to signify the unbroken lineage and the connection between teacher and student. To have a teacher. So it's good. Geshe Michael gets a whole bunch of flowers and incense and blah blah blah. But then what do you do with that? So then you grab wherever you got your special water and you begin. Now in my mind there's a sequence to them that makes sense. For those of you who have a yoga practice or understand about the inner body a little bit, there's a layer of meaning here that I have to say was implied but was never outright shared with me, so it could be something I'm making up, okay? And I have to make that clear. But at some point it became very clear to me that as I pour the rest of the water from the knowledge that your holy teacher gives you, you're sharing this with all the other creatures on the planet who want to be happy. And you can't keep it to yourself. So you give the Dharma off to as many beings as you can imagine. So you imagine now that as you're pouring the water onto the first bowl, which is what? Water for? Drinking. That quenches the thirst, the desire for every being you can imagine. It just quenches their want. People forever wanting. You can stop that. And so I imagine levels of people or layers of people. People are wanting just the nominal things, a new TV, a new girlfriend, a new boyfriend, a new job, more money, nicer housing. Just imagine it landing on them. And then I imagine a bunch of people who are sort of fed up with those things. And a bunch of our friends are meditating for 3 years to try and stop that cycle. And so I imagine that those things come to them, that these high knowledges come to them in a real sense, that they're sitting, meditating, and it's pouring on them. So it quenches that want. It satisfies completely that want. And so what's the next one? Yeah, so everybody that's wanting has something preventing them from leveling up, from moving on, from evolving, and this cleans it for them. All their obstacles, every obstruction that they've got to the house, to the girlfriend, to the thing, to the insights in meditation, as the water dives in, as the Dharma pours in to their bodies, it cleans them. It removes all obstacles. They're pristine. And then, what's the next one? Flowers. And the way that I think about this is, for those of you who did Lady Naguma, understand about chakras and the rest, I imagine that chakras are representations of the knots of the chakras, the blockages in your inner system that prevent you from having special insight or realizations. And so they are flowering. Yeah? So you've removed their busy wanting. You've cleaned all the obstacles that they have to wisdom. And as a result, they're flowering inside, they're opening up. There's no choke on that central channel. They're beginning to flow. And then as that continues to happen, I pour into the next one, which is what? Incense. This is winds moving. This is rising up. Yeah? Because of the choke being released. Yeah? And for the nominal ones, I think that they're elevating their wisdom, their compassion, their wants, their understanding of the world. So people are evolving. Beings are evolving. They're rising up like incense. Yeah? And an incense has heat, which is the next bulb, which is light. And then I see a flame, a bright, perfect flame, light up in the hearts of all those beings I'm imagining. And I imagine specific beings. You should imagine specific beings, beings that invoke something in you. For me, it's my mother, my brother. It's you guys. It's my best friend. It's also lonely people. It's the strangers on the subway. And so you imagine a light spark in their heart. And for those who are following the winds moving, the chakras releasing, it's that moment. It's that moment where you see emptiness directly. It's a moment where the two meet and you have a direct perception of ultimate reality. And so you imagine that landing on people who have been trying for that thing in a very real sense. You see them experiencing that. You feel them experiencing that. And then the next one was what? Perfume, right? And for the nominal people, it's just closer to enlightenment, the light. Yeah? It's realizations, whatever they are, to get them happy. Then the next one is ointment. And what that does is it seals that realization that they just had. It's like oil on top of water. Yeah, it totally contains it. It means it is now permanent. It's staying. It's not going away. All they have to do is habituate it. For the nominal people, it's the knowledge that they gain about their understanding of their world stays. And then it's, what's the next one? Food. And this sustains, and this is food for the mind, heart, and food for the body. So as you imagined a feast for your teacher at the beginning, now you imagine phenomenal beings being able to find food and being freed from needing to seek food constantly, having abundance as they enter a path of elevation, of getting enlightened. And for the higher meaning, the food is dharma. The food is it's continuous knowledge. Yeah. And then the sound is that knowledge. The sound is the verb. It's the at the end of the movies. The angels going. I don't know.
And you make the sound again.
No.
Like you make the sound a second time. And
in your mind, you're just imagining that this is beautiful.
Not that at all.
I can't.
She wants you to play the
No, I don't. I'm just wondering if you actually.
I don't understand. It wasn't as hard last class. Sorry, what do you mean?
I was just wondering if you actually make a sound with whatever.
No, that's a good question though. Do I actually make a sound with it? No, because this is a cheap version. Yeah, but the real conch shells you can. And that's spreading the dharma when you do that. But you imagine you imagine the coolest song, the most beautiful song. You imagine the most beautiful sound. Yeah, for them. From you to them. Yeah, it'll change in the way. For me, it's share. No, I'm kidding, it's not. That's my mom, and that's another story, and it's not appropriate. Hector can't help himself. He keeps interrupting. I left him at the door. Anyway. As you can see, it's such a beautiful practice. It's so, so beautiful. Yeah. Now, do the Buddhas, the enlightened beings, those creatures you're imagining, do they need your water? No. Do they have thirst? Can they possibly have thirst? So who's it for? It's for you. Which is another kindness from them. And so make I was so moved the first time I heard this, and it was here, it was in New York, and I thought, how serious am I to actually put all this stuff into practice? You know, I've been listening to Geshe Michael, hang around the weirdos that do yoga, and you know, it wasn't my state of being. I grew up in Argentina. You punch someone in the head if you didn't like them. Like Tim got into a fight, by the way, everyone, a long time ago. We're talking about when's the last time you had a punch up, you know, and I'm like 10, you know. But the first time I was so moved, because I actually got to think, really, do you believe that you're stuck this way, that you just have to put up, like the 7 billion other people have to just put up with being hungry or lonely or sad or getting old and sick? Or is there really a way out? Really? Do you think it's possible that you can improve your mind that much and then that much, that a perception of your existence can grow from darkness to a little bit of light, and if a little bit of light can be to a lot of light? Is there an end to evolution of your consciousness? How much do you believe that you're stuck this way? And for those of you who did the other courses or understand a little bit about karma and emptiness, you'd know some of those answers, but even if you do, how much do you believe it? And I was really challenged. And then I found a beauty in this practice, because I'm like, I can put water in bowls, I can do that. Yeah, I don't know how much of the other stuff I can do, but I can see that makes sense to me. You allow your mind to spend some time on the most beautiful feelings, the most beautiful sensations and intent. And worst thing that can happen is I spend some time thinking some beautiful things. And it does color your mind. It's like tea in water. You can't remove it. So that first day, I thought I was compelled, I had to do something. And I was living on 13th Street between Broadway and University. And I had the biggest apartment. Like, it was massive. It was probably as big as the toilet. Serious. And I didn't have an altar. And you know, I grew up Catholic. You know, as soon as you have an altar, you're like the devil. You know? So I'm like, I was gonna die, and God was gonna burn me up, and you know. But I was so compelled to try. And the only thing I had was a rose that they gave me from that teaching, and so I used the rose petals as water bowls, and I still have the image in my head, and I laid them out, 6 of them, 7 of them, and each could hold a drop. And so I poured the first one in there very delicately, full of intention, and it dropped in beautifully. Not like I'm doing it now. and then I did that 7 times. And that became my water bowl. You don't need these water bowls. You don't need all the stuff. It's in you. It's in your heart. It's a most beautiful, beautiful practice. And as you evolve in the practice, as you see the results of it, you'll need the representation of the Buddha's speech and mind, body, speech and mind on the altar, and that can be an image or a tanka, and you get elaborate and you start putting stuff in there, and then it can grow into something. But it was the foundation, the rock that got me to actually meditate. Make offerings, ask them to come. So that's number 2. That took a long bloody time. So I hope that does something to you. I hope you do something with that. And if you have a practice, ramp it up. Do something lovely with it. Now at the end of the day, so after you've done all the other preliminaries and you've sat down, you've done your meditation and whatever, towards the end of the day, before you go and lay your head down on your pillow, grab that water. The Kadampas were the first people that did this. The Kadampas were like, I guess like the early Christians. They were radical Buddhists in Tibet who got all this knowledge from India and just wanted to do it perfectly. So they were very beautiful, sort of like us in the West, getting all this knowledge for the first and figuring out how do we make it real for us. So the Kadampas did this practice where they collected the water, and it was charged up water, so don't go chucking it on the dog. I mean, unless the dog needs some help, collect the water and go and put it somewhere special. So if you have a plant or something, go do that. If you live in New York, there might be some people here that do that. I pour it on the side of my building. If I don't put it and I just let it run down the brick. Don't put it on the pavement to let people walk over it, etc. But the Kadampas would make sure that they would collect the water, and then the bowls would be upside down like I showed you before. The first one down, then the next one, the next one, the next one, all cleaned up. So you've cleaned up your deeds for the day. At the end of the day, you've had a full day on the planet.
When you're pouring them out.
It just one after the other into a bowl, and then you clean them all up, and then you place one down, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one until they're aligned. But the reason you do that, you put them upside down, is to say, I'm ready to die. You don't know when you're going to die, but you know that day, if you've done your practice in the morning, if you've engaged with the world in the best way possible, and if you've cleaned up as much of the negativity in your world as you could, then you've done your very best. And you should lay down, do your coffee meditation where you rejoice about all your goodness, but as you put the bowls down, should they find you in the morning in your bed, they see the water bowls and they know you're okay.
Oh, that's good. Suppose you don't want to die yet.
Yeah, you put them upside down and you say, I did my very best. Yeah, no one wants to die yet. This is the practice. It forces you to think about that reality. Yeah? And it's something happens to your mind when you spend time in that mindset. And sometimes you didn't do your best. And so that gives you energy to do your best. And to do your best about what's really important. The one condition all of us have is that we're not going to be here. And Buddhism says that's reversible. Buddhism says you don't have to die that way. You can transform that whole experience and that whole existence. And there's reasons why, we'll cover it, and we covered a little bit before. But Buddhism explains the reality of our suffering so well that for me nothing else has done it that way. Like they've got it so perfect. The understanding of the key human sufferings, the condition of being human, and they've got this understanding of how reality works, which can be verified through logic and experience. And they've got this idea that you do not have to die this way, that you can in fact put the courses in place where you experience that transition as something else, but that something happens after death to your consciousness, that it doesn't stop. And you can use that moment, and you can use the moments preceding it to shift that reality for you. For real, not idea, for real. It's radical. And you'll spend years, if you're something like me, you'll spend years thinking, that's a good idea, maybe I should try it just in case, you know, and not really believing it. And that's okay, that's good. I mean, you have to use logic to verify those things. So let's have a break, because Hector talked for way too long. Back in 10 minutes, and then I'll finish at 9:30 on time, covering the rest of them very quickly but accurately. Thank you for your time, Mary.